Hi friends, thanks for joining me again. This video is going to be on two things: building a small garden railroad in my backyard and also converting a locomotive to battery power. I started off last year by making this garden box for a vegetable patch that covered the two trees that I had removed from the backyard. I never really got into the gardening and decided that that space, that now that it was elevated, would probably better served as a garden railroad than a vegetable garden. So I took some track that I had since about the year 2000 and some buildings and laid out a plan on the vegetable patch and got to work cleaning it out, grading it, and going to the local home center and buying some landscape material. And I dug a trench with a little garden hoe, and with the assistance of my daughter there, put the track down, put the flowers in, sort of a interactive project for her. We also set up the buildings and ballasted the track together. And of course she helped me by putting plastic toys right where I was working at every time, but it's okay. It was a lot of fun. She had a lot of fun helping me out there. And then I took some mulch and some other plants and rocks for rock cuts and some features, and added them along the layout while my daughter ran around the backyard. This was all done in about a day. Like I said, the bed was already built and prepared, so there wasn't a lot of stuff for me to do as far as excavation. Is mainly just the landscaping, dressing, and connecting the track. All the track I had since about the year 2000 when I worked at a model train store, along with the locomotive that I'm going to convert to battery power. I had wanted a garden railroad to run my own live steam engines at the house, but I also wanted a locomotive my daughter could use. Sitting on my shelf at home down in the layout room, I had this LGB Field Diesel that I figured would have been a perfect match for her. The nice thing about it is it's fairly durable and very simple. So I took it apart to see what I needed to do to convert it to battery power. After scratching my head for a little bit and using some Yankee ingenuity, I went down to my bandsaw and decided that I needed to bandsaw off the interlocking tabs on one end of the hood. The hood would connect to the cab, so the cab would have to come off first, then the hood. But since this was going to be now a battery compartment, I decided to cut off those tabs and make the hood easily removable while the cab stayed fixed to the frame. The locomotive inside of it had a very, very large lead weight or metal weight of some sort. That weight is used not only for traction, but to counterbalance the spring pickup shoes on LGB models that they use to take track power. Since this locomotive would not be running on track power on my layout, and really just only in a small circle, I decided that a fancy control mechanism wasn't necessary, and this would be a straight battery-powered locomotive, basically a plug-and-play. I used the abundance of RC plane parts and connectors that I had. I ended up using a Dean's 2 Tiger connector here. I have an abundance of RC plane batteries that have the Dean's connector, and I happen to have a Tiger connector that had some nice long leads on it sitting in the spare parts box. So I took apart the locomotive circuit board and glued it to the frame with some hot glue and potted it with the hot glue, and then soldered the connections together for a nice solid fit. One of the difficult things about this locomotive is the side rods. The synchronization has to be absolutely perfect, or else the locomotive will just bind up and cause the brass gear on the motor to start stripping the plastic gears on the axles. It's very, very frustrating, and you really have to be cognizant when you take this locomotive apart to get it back in synchronous time, or else it won't run and it'll just bind up, causing the gears to strip. You can see the gear on the right was actually the original gear, and it stripped out, so I flipped the axle set around. This is testing it with the battery. This is after probably about a half hour of playing with the synchronization. And this is the ultimate setup here. So where that battery for the RC plane is where the lead weight would have been. This isn't going to be pulling any long trains, maybe just one car or just itself. And taking away the spring pickup shoes really makes this locomotive roll a lot smoother. And since it's just going to be a plug and play and just one speed in a circle, I just plugged the connector together and let it run. Again, it's for a toddler to use and to teach her about model trains, so I kept it very simple. But putting the hood back on, this is how it looks. And the nice thing is, since that battery is rechargeable, I can have a couple of them from my old Piper Cub. So let's take this locomotive out back and enjoy the scenes of it running.
Oh, engine.